and out of the 36 organizations, I would say maybe at least 20 organizations easily participated in this in various ways. There is a 10th Ward Green Summit tour also that takes place with this. We want people who live and work in our area to be knowledgeable about these green initiatives that are taking place. So the tour is scheduled for like 2 hours and usually takes 2.5, 3, because more and more green stuff is appearing on the southeast side. Choose of things as they could. Because the weather was not necessarily favorable for doing that kind of work in certain areas, they probably came up with a little bit less than what they expected. I'm not sure what their final number was.
I think it's maybe around 800.
Oh, wow.
Was it more than that?
That may have been their initial number.
I think that was their initial number.
Yeah.
I don't know what they ended
that sounds not right.
I'm sure it's more than that. And it's just interesting as an aside to that, at Wolf Lake in 2001, they had a BioBlitz, and initially they had about 2,150 species. Species.
This is not individuals, like 10 bugs of this type and 5 trees of that, but
like that day, there was 100 different wasps that they collected, and I thought there was only one kind, the ones that stung you. But there was 100 different species of wasps, and I think now the species count is over 2,500. So because it takes scientists longer to identify what they've got. And the things that they can identify, they put on the back shelf until they have time to take a second look at it.
What was interesting too about that was that for a lot of us who think Hawaii is a great place for orchids and things like that, Hawaii has 3 varieties. The dunes have more than 20. They discovered.
So the ones at the dunes may be a little bit smaller in size, and
you don't have to do the qualifier. They have different species, more than 20.
Yes.
That's it.
Yes.
Say no
Okay,
more.
so we really live in a very rich region, and a lot of it has been untouched over time. You say, well, what about all those mills and everything that came in here? There's some areas where the mills did not touch. Eggers Grove is an example of that. Okay, and in terms of the previous BioBlitz, the area that was used for that was Wolf Lake and Eggers Grove, and that's it. They didn't go beyond that, and they came up with more than 2,000 species.
I use powderhorn as well.
And powderhorn too? Okay, so but still, it's a very small area.
It's still just solve it.
Yeah, so isn't that wonderful and all this stuff? So why don't those kids stay inside when they come out and discover all these wonderful things, right? Okay, so this was another event that we cooperated. Okay, in September, just last weekend as a matter of fact, there was a performance of a play recently written about a plant called Thismia americana, which has since disappeared from this area. But this was the audience. We couldn't photograph the players because it was kind of
Copyright.
Copyright, things like that. But if you take a look, you're probably going to see some familiar faces in this, including Irene Levy, who used to be the Sand Ridge Ranger.
Oh, is that her?
Yeah, that's her.
Great.
So you really close, you probably
I haven't
see
seen her in a couple of years.
Okay, so this production was recently written by someone who knows quite a bit about the area and the environmental stuff that's taking place here. But in addition to that, Mark Bowman from Chicago State University, who is part of our organization too, was able to give us some information about the geography of the area so that you can kind of fit it in. But what's remarkable about this little plant was it was found at 119th and Torrance. Who's been past 119th and Torrance lately? Like we all use that to get over River Oaks, something like that? Yeah, can you imagine that there would be a rare plant somewhere in there that is now, at least for the time being, kind of disappeared? Okay, and the discovery was made early in the 1900s. Okay, but since then it sort of disappeared. Okay, another partner with this was Laurel Ross from Field Museum, who on another day when this performance was underway, took a group of people to Bobian Woods for a hike prior to this, so they kind of get the feel of the natural areas. Okay, so that was another collaborative thing that our members were involved in.
What's neat about this too is the space in which this was not a normal theater. It's a warehouse type space in an industrial setting. It's a Pullman clock tower building, which is being used for a lot of stores. You can see some of the stuff around the sides, but they were able to convert that space very nicely to do this presentation. So you can use spaces like that, and that was impressive too, I think.
As I'm looking at this, I think this is Mark right here.
No, that's his brother.
That's his brother?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
That's his brother.
I said so much you realize. Okay. All right, so this is one of the recent things. And this event was so popular that they're thinking of doing maybe a Thisbia hunt next year. So that'd be kind of fun. It's discovery again, and to get those kids outside, and not just the kids. That's it. Otherwise, we go through.
Go ahead.
I know, you're in.
Yeah, no, that's just it.
Okay, another event, and this has been like more than 6 months worth. The Burnham Plan Centennial, 2009. This has been more than citywide because Daniel Burnham's vision encompassed 4 states, all of which share the southern end of Lake Michigan. So Wisconsin, Illinois, Indiana, and Michigan. So there are tons and tons of events related to this, and a number of our organizations took this on in addition to their everyday load to participate. So already had this poster contest asking students to kind of project what life might be like in the future. The Calumet Heritage Conference is coming up October 10th, and they will be talking about past and future in terms of planning. The Field Museum, I think, still has its water exhibit on. The Southeast Chicago Historical Societies had an exhibit on the Burnham Plan at the museum in Calumet Park. And CEPA, which is the Calumet Ecological Park Association, had 3 speakers, including Eleanor Romer, who represents Friends of the Parks. She did a presentation on the last 4 miles. How many of you are familiar with Calumet Park? You know it ends right now at 95th Street? Well, the plan with these last 4 miles is that it will go beyond 95th, right to the river, which should be at 92nd. So that's part of this. There are about 30 miles of lakefront that we have access to. Thank you, Daniel Burnham. People worked with him, right? Okay, and there are only 4 miles worth of privately owned or industrially owned space. But the last 4 miles would be very happy if that space was taken over. Some of the people who own that space, though, are not so sure they want to give it up. You know, if a 300-mile-long lake was in your backyard, would you want to give it up? I don't know. Okay. But their best chance right now is to get the property from Iroquois Landing, the Port Authority, right in through there. So that would be very nice. So imagine being able to take your canoes, kayaks, pontoons right into the Calumet River right there. That'd be nice. Okay, and there were other member organizations that presented at this event too, including the Department of the Environment and also the Southeast Chicago Historical Society. Okay, another thing connected to Burnham, Kevin and I worked with Claretian Associates to develop a tour of South Chicago. And they're going to do their 3rd tour, the 3rd run of that, on Saturday, October 10th. And it's free. I think you just have to sign up through either Claretian or downtown.
I'm sorry.
Okay, we can't go back, right?
No.
Okay, all right, everybody remember Glacier Island?
Okay.
Remember, okay. All right, down the street from the Via Guadalupe, which is where that shop was taken, remember seeing that white steeple, the church with the white steeple? Okay, Coker Baptist, right? Okay, otherwise known as the Blues Brothers Church. So you see in the Blues Brothers movie, you saw the outside of that building. That was part of a bike ride that one of our organizations also sponsored this year. Movie sites in Southeast Chicago. And you may say, well, yeah, Blues Brothers, like, can you study them more than that? Yes, you can.